أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا رسول الله صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة وعبرة كل مؤمن ومؤمنة ما خاب والله من تمسك بكم وأمنا من لجأ إليكم سادتي يا ليتنا كنا معكم فنفوز فوزا عظيما. Sweeten and revive your gatherings with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. قال الله في محكم كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا إكراه في الدين قد تبين الرشد من الغي فمن يكفر بالطاغوت ويؤمن بالله فقد استمسك بالعروة الوثقى لا انفصام لها والله سميع عليم. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Freedom, the quality or state of being free, as the absence of necessity, coercion, or constraint in a choice or action. That a man can do as he pleases. He can act as he pleases and he wishes with no coercion and compulsion. There is no one forcing him to do or act or to say or to live a way of life. This is the definition of freedom in the dictionary. But with this definition, you also are living the same life of a wild animal. A zebra in the wild jungle also can roam freely without anyone telling it what to do. A wild bird can live and fly around and about freely without anyone telling it what to do, without coercion. So we as animals, we as human beings, do we want to live a life similar to the life of an animal? Because this is the definition that's given in the dictionary when you search the term of freedom. We as Muslims, we as the followers of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, and Amir al-Mu'mineen, and the progeny of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, do we want to live this way of life? Are we told and brought up to live this way of life? The definition should truly be that we secular societies, or these secular societies, these societies that claim to give you freedom, the definition of freedom in their dictionary should be the freedom to disobey your religion, the freedom to disobey the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His messengers. Because when it comes to man-made laws, no one dares to break their laws because there are heavy punishments, hefty punishments. The only laws that are broken are the laws of religion. When it comes to breaking the laws of a country, it has become anarchy. But when a person does not follow his religion, it is called freedom. You come to this country, as soon as you step on the soil as a young child, they teach you not to listen to your parents because this country has given you freedom. You can wish which gender to choose because this country is giving you freedom. But if you disobey their laws, it is anarchy. Read the definition that they give you in the dictionary. The definition of anarchy is a situation of confusion. When a person breaks the laws of a country, he's confused. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's in the wrong place at the wrong time. He's confused. And wild behavior. When you break the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of man, this is not wild behavior. This is not confusion. In which the people in a country, group or organization are not controlled by rules or laws. We as human beings, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also created us to be controlled by rules and laws. We were not created to live as cattle, to live as wild animals. So what does Islam want? And what is this freedom? Is it truly freedom or is it truly slavery? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran says that these people, that you speak to them and you give them the laws and the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those who don't listen and can't see the truth, these people are lower than animals. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has honored the sons of Adam. The Holy Quran says, أَمْ تَحْسَبَ أَنَّ أَكْثَرَهُمْ يَسْمَعُونَ أَوْ يَعْقِلُونَ أَمْ هُمْ إِلَّا كَالْأَنْعَامِ أَوْ أَضَلُّ سَبِيلًا. These people, that they want to live in this terminology of freedom, they are less than animals and cattle. Because, O Rasulullah, you have been preaching day and night. Your message was 23 years. Day and night you are preaching to guide them. But they take your message from one ear and it leaves to the other. Which Muslim brothers and sisters did not hear Husaynun minni wa ana min Husayn? Which Muslim did not hear أحب الله من أحب حسينا? But why is it that on the 10th of Ashura only 72 men stand and march alongside the son of Fatima alayha salam? Just like you break the laws in this country and you undergo severe punishment, if you want to break the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and live in a state of anarchy, there is also punishment. There's also punishment by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we need to know what is the true freedom that we are seeking as Muslims. What is the true freedom that we are seeking as human beings? What is the freedom that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to seek when He is saying, لَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ, and we have honored the sons of Adam? Why is it that humans can become less than cattle and animals? Because even animals and cattle, brothers and sisters, they have a duty. They have a duty to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Quran says, تُسَبِّحُ لَهُ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ السَّبْعِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَنْ فِيهِنَّ. Everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created, from the 7 skies to the 7 earths, and what lives in them. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created in them, from angels to even small molecules and atoms. They have a duty, and that duty is to remember and make dhikr and remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala constantly, day and night. So when a human being goes to live the definition that I gave you of freedom, he has become less than an animal. Because when you wake up in the morning, you hear the birds chirp. That chirp is a remembrance. It's a remembrance and the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It doesn't leave its remembrance. Years can pass by and it'll still chirp and remember the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as long as it's living. It doesn't say, I want freedom. I don't want to remember anymore. I don't want to do dhikr anymore. I don't want to. I want freedom. I just want to do whatever I want. This is only the human being. The shaitan has come and deceived him that if you want freedom, you have to run away from the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can't run away from the laws and rules of man because you will be punished. But Allah, that's fine. This is the true state that we live in, brothers and sisters. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given the highest ranks to the sons of Adam. For the creation that He made as nobles, He gave you the position to rule over every other creation. And the Quran says we gave Him the ability to walk through the plains, through the earth, walk on earth, and to move over the seas. And we gave Him min al-tayyibat, and we gave Him all the goods at His services. A sheep can live as long as it wants, but the best thing it could do in its lifetime is become a steak on your plate. A chicken could live as long as it wants, but at the end it will just be chicken donor. That's the best thing it could do. But a human being can become in such high positions, even past the positions of angels. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi afdal as-salati was-salam, the day that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi was leaving and departing the city of Mecca, slept on the bed of our Prophet to save the life of our Prophet, to save the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do you know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells Jibreel and Mikael? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked Jibreel and Mikael, He says, which one of you would give his life as a ransom to the other? Jibreel, would you give your life as a ransom to Mikael? The answer was no from both sides. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you know why Ali ibn Abi Talib is raised above the angels? Because he gave his life and soul and blood as ransom to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. And they come down and descend at the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One protects him by his head, and one as a servant by the feet of Ali ibn Abi Talib. لَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. We gave you the ability to live as free men, not to live as slaves. Allah doesn't want His creation to be as slaves. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Going back to the topic of freedom, do we as people in these countries, these secular governments, do we actually live as free people? Do we, not just as Muslims, but the citizens of the United Kingdom, the citizens of Canada, the citizens of America, the United States of America, live as free men, or do we live as slaves? You only live as a free man if you're making your own decisions. But if others are making your decisions for you, then you are a slave. Let's look at the statistics in which the livelihood of these people can explain. The Americans, the Canadians, the people of England. Do they make their own choices? 87.6% of youth ages 18 and above in the West have drank and intoxicated themselves once in a lifetime. That's almost 9 out of 10 individuals. That high of a probability, you want to tell me there is freedom and they have all made their choice? It's a choice if one or two have made. It's not a choice when 90% of the people are walking on that path. Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroy the nation of Lut alayhi salam? At the time that He saved Lut alayhi salam and his 2 daughters, they were the only 2 believing people. The rest were all affiliated in homosexuality. They didn't have a choice. You can't say out of freedom they committed this act. It's not a choice when a whole nation does the same thing. No, it's enslavement. It's not freedom. The only free individuals that escaped Sodom was Prophet Lut and his daughter. And the United Nations of America, last year, 2003, Americans spent $150 billion on alcohol, $40 billion on marijuana, $30 billion on cocaine, $28 billion on heroin, $13 billion on meth. 6.8 million British citizens are alcoholics. They undergo alcohol abuse, meaning they can't live a day of their lives if they're not intoxicated. That's nearly the numbers of which the United Nations and America and England asked Iraq $300 billion to give so they can free them from ISIS. We will give you freedom from ISIS for $300 billion, while the citizens and the poor children of their nation are enslaved, paying $300 billion. Nearly $300 billion. In this country, brothers and sisters, 1 out of 3 is addicted to narcotics. That's 1 out of 3 of us, 33%. These are terrifying facts. But these are the ways of enslavement, modern day enslavement. Before, they used to put you in shackles, put you on a boat, and ship you out. Today, the shackles they place on societies is through a syringe. This is modern day enslavement. When you don't have a choice, 1 out of 3. A family that has 3 sons, one of them is addicted. These are the true facts. So what must we do? What must we do to live as people who walk free on this earth? You see, you live your life in this country and in the West. They tell you, we have given you freedom. You could go to the pub, drink, sit in your car, drive home. On the way, if you crash and kill someone, that's when we'll grab you. And that's when you'll go to prison. Is this freedom? They give you the means to kill yourself. And once you kill yourself and you kill someone else, that's when the law is implemented. Shouldn't it be implemented before people are hurt? 2 days ago, 3 days ago, there was a house party in the city of Bradford. I'm sure most of you heard it, read it in the news. There's a house party, they get in an argument, they're intoxicated. The next day, the parents go inside their home, they go upstairs, they open the door of the son's bedroom, they find his corpse. Is this freedom? Intoxicate, to kill, murder, rape, commit suicide? No, this isn't freedom. This is modern day slavery. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. If you went to Iraq before 2003, before the fall of Saddam, you turned on the television, public television. If Iraqi television had 10 hours of broadcast, 9 hours and a half were about Saddam. Correct? Right now, if you turn on public television in the United States or the United Kingdom or Canada, 9 out of 10 commercials, aren't they about alcohol or the casinos in town? Aren't these the only messages they send our youth, our citizens? 9 out of 10. It's no joke. They don't make other types of commercials. They only make commercials in which enslave you, make you lost, lose your religion, lose your faith, lose your deen. That's when you become a slave. You live your life with no purpose, no means, just like an animal. You live, you wake up in the morning, you work, after work, straight to the bar, you drink, you're intoxicated, you go sleep on your bed. That's it. You have no purpose in life. And this is how we see how people live in these societies. They don't have a choice. What is the difference between enslavement in which tyrants do to their people or enslavement of intoxicants that are given in these societies? A person can become a slave of an intoxicant, just like he can become a slave under the regime of a tyrant. Because in both instances, he has no word. He doesn't have any say-so. He doesn't have free will. He's not a free man. He's not walking freely. 20 million Americans at the age of 12 and plus 20 million are addicted to illegal drugs. Brothers and sisters, that's the age before bulugh. He's not even baligh. He hasn't even reached puberty. Ahkam al-shar'iyyah, divine laws aren't even upon him. And he has already become an addict. That's horrible. At the age of 12, this is why we need to be cautious. We need to be cautious. This is the message to the youth. But the message to the elderly, read the statistics. 70% of Americans ages 30 and over are taking medication, prescription medication. 50% of them are taking 2 doses or 2 types of prescription drugs. Do you think there is a high difference between prescription drugs and illegal drugs? There's no difference. They all come from the same family. They all come from the same family. This is why you see today our elders, they're growing ill and they're growing weak. You go to the doctor, he doesn't tell you that there's nothing wrong with you. 70%, brothers and sisters. Can you believe 70% of 350 million people, they're all ill? 50% of them have 2 illnesses? But there's no difference. They all come from one family. You'll be intoxicated through illegal drugs, or you being intoxicated through prescription drugs. You go tell them, I just have some anxiety. Right away, they prescribe you depression medicine and they throw you in your home. That's it. For 6-7 months, you have to take depression medication. And we see the cycle in the society. But this is not truly what this is just making you a slave. A free man could say, no, I can wait until this flu is gone. This is why our grandparents lived much more than us. Their bodies were much stronger than us. But you have no choice. There's an Iraqi joke. The joke says that this guy, he went to the doctor, he told him, my beard hurts. The doctor told him, the physician told him, why does your beard hurt? He told him, I ate too much ice. So he wrote him 1.5 pages of medication. You know, there's nothing wrong with the guy. Sometimes we just think we are ill, but there's nothing wrong with you. But this governments and today governments, this is the way they are enslaving people. They are making them weak. Yesterday was the swine flu. People went into a scare. Everyone is scared, willing to pay as much dollars and euros just so they are not struck by the swine flu. It's a scares all around, global scares. Today, it's Ebola. Yesterday, they're already scaring a whole nation. Ebola has reached New York. We're fully prepared, don't worry. But we're just taking every single penny that you're paying as a taxpayer. Is this freedom? This is not freedom. Because they have created it. Every single one of these diseases that you have seen destroy man are man-made diseases. They're man-made diseases to enslave man himself and to have certain individuals as rulers. But we as men, we the sons of Hussein alayhi salam, we the sons of Hussein alayhi salam, we need to wake up and walk as free men. Ya ayyuhan nas kunu ahraran fi dunyakum. This is the message of Imam Hussein before he left. This is the message of Imam Hussein when he stood on the sand dunes of Karbala. You want freedom? Freedom is speaking against tyranny, injustice, enslavement. However it would be, 1400 years ago, it was one way. 2014, it's another. We need to wake up. We need to speak. And we have to realize the ways of enslavement of this world. This dunya that seduces everyone. And we have to understand the ways that they destroy us. 86% of youth in the West have to listen to music. These are statistics they are giving us today. 86% of youth in the West always have their headphones on. Whether he's at the gym, whether he's jogging, whether he's in the car, he's listening to music. As soon as he wakes up, there is no more alarm sounds, those annoying alarms. Now you could put your favorite artist to wake you up. As soon as you wake up, when you're in the shower, when you're going to school, when you're doing your homework, when you're working, every single moment of your life, you're listening to music. Don't you think there are messages in the words of these musicians? Don't you see they all live one lifestyle? Don't they all live one lifestyle? Is that lifestyle the same lifestyle of Hussein ibn Ali? Billahi alaykum. Is it the lifestyle of Hussein ibn Ali? But today, unfortunately, even in our own communities, if our son wants to get married, we have to bring a concert. If our daughter wants to get married, there has to be a singer. We claim to be the sons of Hussein. Let us live free like the sons of Hussein. Some countries and some communities, Islam reached them as a package, but that package was missing the hijab. I don't know why. You go to them and you tell them, why is your hijab so shallow? They tell you, say it, it's our tradition. What is tradition when it comes to religion? Tradition is also a type of enslavement. Tradition is also a type of enslavement if it doesn't stand parallel to the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or else they will just collide. They will collide. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. They tell you how to dress. They tell you what to do, how to live your life. And this is why we see our youth. They're only categorized in 5 categories. And those categories are only based on the musicians they listen to. That's it. If he listens to rap or hip-hop, you see him dressed like a rapper. If he's a preppy and he listens to these boy bands, you see him dressed like a boy band character. If he's an emo and he listens to emo music, then he dresses like them. Why is it that you can't live as a free man? Why is it that you have to imitate someone? If you want to imitate someone, imitate Rasulullah. Imitate Amir al-Mu'mineen. Imitate those who will take you to paradise and give you eternal freedom. Give you freedom in this life. كونوا أحرار في دنياكم. Be free men in this life and in the hereafter. If you are a slave in this dunya, you will be shackled and treated like a slave in the akhirah. If you live as a free man in this life, you will be treated as a free man in the akhirah. They tell you what to do. You become 16, you have to have this sweet 16. You're 18, you already know what to do. The underage clubs, as soon as you have your birthday, that's where you have to go. As soon as you're 21, you have had your chance to go party out for the rest of your life. And how many youth do we know in society that don't do this? That don't do this. As soon as Eid is over, I was at a community not too long ago. As soon as Eid al-Fitr was over, they have been fasting for 30 days. Right after Salat al-Eid, every single one of them went to Vegas. Why have you been fasting for 30 days then? Why? Because they have become slaves of this dunya. Even if they try to come back to the Sirat al-Mustaqim, to the true path, their shackles are too strong. What is the definition? What is the Islamic definition of freedom? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals this verse upon the heart of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. And he says, زُيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ حُبُّ الشَّهَوَاتِ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ وَالْبَنِينَ. Allah, there in this life, the seductions of this life are either through women, or through your kids, or through your gold, or through your homes, or through your cars. And we saw this in the history of the Muslims before us. So why don't we learn a lesson from them? A person like Khalid ibn al-Walid, la'natullahi alayh. Rasulullah sends him as a messenger to invite people to Islam. But what does he do? When he says Malik ibn Nuwayra, the sheikh of the clan of Tamim, his wife sitting next to him, Layla, a gorgeous woman, that's it. Shaitan comes and seduces him. Right away, Khalid goes right away, chops off the head of Malik bin Nuwayra, and some traditions that he placed the head of Malik under the pot that he was cooking in. He put it to make a stronger fire. And he rapes his wife Layla. Brothers and sisters, if you want to be enslaved in this life, you only deserve one thing. The same thing that Khalid deserved as soon as he went to Rasulullah. What did Rasulullah do? Every single one of you knows. One act can either make you a slave or make you a free man. A person like Musa ibn Ja'far alayhi salam. He is in the prison of Harun al-Rashid. He is in the prison of Harun. Harun sends him a prostitute. He sends him a prostitute to seduce him. Hours later, Harun opens the door of the prison cell. He sees this lady. She's in prostration with our Imam. He pulls her out. He tells her, I gave you so much gold. And I brought you because you are the most beautiful one to seduce Musa ibn Ja'far, but you couldn't. She tells him, what can I do? And this man didn't even raise his head from sajda, from sujood to look at me. I tried my best. I danced, I screamed, I called him by his name. Nothing worked. This man didn't even act like I existed. The only thing this man was doing was the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You want me to seduce this man? This man embodies the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are the resemblance. So this is the difference between a free man and a slave. This is the difference between a man and a slave. Your gold. There was a man, I heard the story from a close friend of mine. He said we went to a man, he was at the age of 86. His family told us to tell him to write his wasiyah, his testimony. He would tell me every 3 times, Sayyid, I am not writing my testimony. I worked so hard for this company, for my wealth. I am not willing to write my testimony. He says the 3rd time, as soon as I left his house, he passed away. He passed away. Why? Because he's a slave of his money. He's a slave of his gold and silver. A person, even like Ali ibn Ismail bin Ja'far, as-Sadiq alayhi salam, he became a slave to gold and silver. What was the reason? What was the reason of the poisoning and death of our Imam Musa ibn Ja'far? He left his home and went all the way to Baghdad to Harun al-Rashid. And he tells him, مَا ظَنَنْتُ أَنَّ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَتَيْنِ. I didn't think that there are 2 khalifas on this planet. Harun becomes crazy. He tells him, what do you mean? There is another khalifa? He tells him, yes, Ammi, Musa ibn Ja'far. My uncle Musa ibn Ja'far. People are calling him Khalifa and they're taking half of the wealth of the Muslims to him. Just for a small gift from Harun al-Rashid. Just small petty gold. This man became a slave. This man became a slave. This is when it comes to wealth. We have such individuals and we have individuals as Maulana Amir al-Mu'mineen. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi afdal as-salatu was-salam sends a message to Uthman bin Hanif, his ambassador in Basra. After he had realized that Uthman bin Hanif had went to a fiesta that was made in the city of Basra. He tells him, oh Uthman, I have sent you to represent me in the city of Basra. To be with the people, to be with the poor, to live amongst them. And you have went to a fiesta that has over 30 types of food. I am Ali ibn Abi Talib. I am no other person. أقنع من نفسي أن يقال لي أمير المؤمنين ولا أشارك الناس في مكاره الدهر. And then he tells Uthman, do you want me to live as others did? No, I will live with the poor. I will die with the poor. I will see the tragedies of the poor. I will live the catastrophes that the poor see in their life. If there is a person from Kufa all the way to Hijaz that doesn't have a piece of bread, how can I sleep with my stomach full? How can I sleep with my stomach full? Amir al-Mu'mineen would eat half of a bread, so he would be equivalent to the poorest person in his nation. And this is a free man. This is a free man. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to be freedom fighters, brothers and sisters. Against your nafs, against your desires, against the temptations in this world. Don't become slaves of pleasures. Don't go around killing and murdering for positions of power as we see today in Pakistan and Iraq. People are willing to kill and murder and massacre so they stay in their positions of power. Don't become slaves to this dunya. Yes, all that's mentioned in the Quran is telling you these are the seductions, but don't let them lure you in. قل يا أهل الكتاب تعالوا إلى كلمة سواء بيننا وبينكم ألا لا نعبد إلا الله ولا نشرك به شيئا. Oh, people of all religions, I tell you to come and gather for only one thing, to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be slaves to only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَا نُشْرِكْ بِهِ شَيْئًا. And don't give equivalent position to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Once you're placing a position for your wealth and not abiding by the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have gave him a sharik. This is what the Quran says. This is what the Quran says. When you are placing your children above what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, then you are making them sharik with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَا نَشْرِكْ بِهِ شَيْئًا وَلَا يَتَّخِذْ بَعْضَنَا بَعْضًا أَرْبَابًا وَمِن دُونِ اللَّهِ فَإِن تَوَلَّوْا فَقُولُوا أَشْهَدُوا بِأَنَّا مُسْلِمُونَ. When you leave everything and you're truly a slave to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then say we are Muslims. Then truly say we are Muslims. This is the message of Imam Hussein, brothers and sisters. Imam Hussein left the city of Medina saying what? Imam Hussein alayhi afdal as-salatu was-salam left the city of Medina and stood in the city of Karbala saying, Wallah, lam ara al-maut illa sa'ada, wal hayat ma'a al-zalimin illa burma. I don't see death but joy when it comes to living with tyrants. These tyrants that enslaved people. I see death as glory and joy. When he asks the people who had came to fight him, have you come to fight me because you hate me? They told him, no, the son of Fatima, we have come here, we love you. قُلُوبُنَا مَعَكْ وَسُيُوفُنَا عَلَيْكَ. Our hearts are with you, but our swords are against you because we are slave of the dollar. We are slave of the gold and the silver. This is the reason why they came, and they achieved what? Eternal doom. Eternal punishment. Eternal punishment. But those who stood alongside Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam, when you visit them, what is their ziyarah? Assalamu alaykum ya ahibba Allahi wa awadda'ih. Assalamu alaikum, may the peace of Allah be upon you. Oh, the loved ones of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They became loved ones of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. People visit them, billions of people visit them because they became symbols of freedom. They became symbols of freedom. Ya ayyuhan nas kunu ahraran fi dunyakum. Like a day like today, Imam Hussein alayhi afdal as-salati was-salam was preparing for his journey of freedom. Imam Hussein alayhi afdal as-salati was-salam went to the grave of his grandfather Rasulullah. Imam Hussein, with his tears, called upon his grandfather. ضمني عندك يا جداه في هذا الضريح علني عن بلوى زماني يستريح. Oh, my grandfather, please invite me into your grave. Oh, my grandfather, invite me in your grave, so I do not see any more sorrow in this life. What sorrow? What was the sorrow that Imam Hussein was talking about? Was it because he was going to Karbala and he knew of his martyrdom? La wallah, Imam Hussein knew of his martyrdom before his birth. Before his birth, Imam Hussein accepted to be the master of the martyrs. But Imam Hussein's sorrow was to see the ummah of his grandfather to be slaved to the seductions of this life. ضمني عندك يا جداياه في هذا الضريح علني عن بلوى زماني يستريح وعلى من داخل القبر بكاء ونحيب أهلا يا حبيبي يا حسين. And from the grave Rasulullah raised his voice. Welcome to me, oh Habibi, oh Hussein. Imam Hussein closed his eyes, brothers and sisters. He saw Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi has come to him once again. Rasulullah hugged Imam Hussein and kissed him on his veins as he was a child. Imam Hussein remembered his childhood. In his childhood, one day Imam Hussein and Imam al-Hassan went to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. Rasulullah carried them. He kissed one of them. He kissed Imam Hassan on his lips. And he kissed Imam Hussein on his vein. When Imam Hussein went to his mother, he told her the story. Fatima alayhi salam told Imam Hussein to wait and to ask his father, to ask his grandfather himself. When Rasulullah came to the home of Fatima, Imam Hussein asked him, "Oh Rasulullah, why is it that you kissed me from my vein and you kissed my brother from his lips?" Rasulullah started to cry, "Oh mu'mineen." He started to say, "Moments ago, Jibreel descended upon my heart and he told me, Ya Rasulullah, Inna al-Rafiq al-A'la yaqra'uka as-salam wa yaqul." And Jibreel told Rasulullah that your grandson Hassan will die of a poison, and your grandson Hussein, they will raise his head on a spear on the sand dunes of Karbala. Imam Hussein again saw Rasulullah kissing him in his dream. He woke up in his dream. He went back to the home of Zainab. And he told her, oh, my sister, our journey has begun. My grandfather Rasulullah just told me it has become time. Oh, Abbas, it is time. We are starting the journey to Karbala. Ya Hussein,